Hello and Minglaba, welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Authorities to fine those failing to wear masks when leaving homes. As the world is devastated by the pandemic, poor countries need further international support. And a story coverage on Pandia launching an open innovation platform. All of that coming up later, but for now let's take a look at what's happening in local news. On Tuesday, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi held a video conference from the Presidential Palace in Naypyidaw with Myanmar Township Administrative Officer, General Affairs Department, U Than Zin Khain, Pithuluto MP, Do Pyongge Dinai from Kalor Township constituency, and Deputy Mayor of Naypyidaw Council Area, U Ye Min U, to discuss managing the marketplaces during the COVID-19 period. The State Councillor said she wanted everyone to think of pragmatic ways to adapt to a new way of living for the long term. Those new ways could be found from experiences. Endurance was the main factor to enter a long-term battle. To have endurance, hope was essential. In the same way, determination and unflagging zeal was also needed. Hope and hard work was also required. For the fulfillment of one's aspirations, strenuous efforts were needed. Endurance and the courage to carry on was also needed. She added that, in her opinion, the people already had the aforementioned qualities to a certain extent, and that she would like to request the people to train and upgrade these qualities day by day. An information briefing on current developments of Myanmar was held at the National Reconciliation and Peace Center in Naypyidaw on Tuesday. Union Minister U Din Sui of the Office of the State Councillor, Union Minister U Din of the Ministry of International Cooperation, and Union Minister Dr. Wimya A of the Ministry of Social Welfare Relief and Resettlement were leading the briefing. Yangon-based diplomatic corps, who are exclusively invited, comprising of ambassadors and embassy officials from ASEAN countries, the Republic of Korea, Japan, India, People's Republic of China, Timor-Leste, Russia, France, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, the United States of America, Germany, the European Union, and the UN Resident Coordinator, Myanmar, were present on the occasion. Union Minister U Din Sui explained the matters of the government's strenuous efforts to prevent and control the COVID-19 pandemic and to mitigate the socio-economic impacts upon the people, the collaborative endeavors with the EAOs to contain the COVID-19 in ethnic armed conflict areas, the peace efforts to sign the NCA with all ethnic armed organizations, including AA, the issue of terrorist acts by AA and ARSA groups, the AA's disruptive actions to the government mechanism in Rakhine State, the efforts to raise humanitarian aid to the IDPs, and the Damador Statement on the ceasefire and eternal peace. Union Minister U Din briefed on the status of the government's efforts to mobilize the people's strength to fight against the COVID-19 for all strata of life nationwide, inclusive of IDPs, prisons, and persons with disabilities, based on the principle of leaving no one behind, the measures to carry out work programs in cooperation with the ICRC in the prevention and control of the COVID-19 at the displaced people camps, and the COVID-19 economic relief plan to address the economic impacts caused by the pandemic. Union Minister Dr. Wimya A then explained the matters relating to the COVID-19 preventive measures at the displaced people camps and IDP camps, the dissemination of health information, the provision of hand gels, soaps, hand washing basins, face masks and thermometers, the nutrition and funds assistance to the elder persons, pregnant mothers and infants. The briefing was reportedly held in line with the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health and Sports. The New Mon State Party made an agreement to work together with the government on the prevention and containment of COVID-19 in their area. The government's commitment to coordinate with ethnic armed groups on fighting against the pandemic held an online meeting from National Reconciliation and Peace Center in Yangon on Tuesday, and it was attended by Chairman of the committee, Dr. Dim Myo Win, its Vice Chairman, Retired Lieutenant General Kinzo U, committee members, NMSP's CEC member, Nai Banya Lel, and its members. The discussions were based on 7 points of agreement reached at the meeting of 10 members NCAS EAOs on 8th of May. Ula Mangshui, a member of the Advisory Board of Peace Commission, said, quote, The new Moon State Party will carry out preventive measures against COVID-19 at its 18 screen points and will work together with the government. The meeting also discussed possible repercussions on the socio-economic sector in the post-COVID-19 disease. We could make good results in the discussions of the social, economic, health, and education sectors. The follow-up meeting between the two sides will be convened in the third week of May. Ula Mongshui added, they also agreed to work on the issues of returnees from foreign countries in their area while only border crossing in Myawaddy Township of Kayin State is allowed for entry. A total of 15 ethnic armed groups have contacted the Coordination Committee to implement COVID-19 measures, and the committee will hold discussions with the Chin National Front on Thursday, the Pa'o National Liberation Organization on Friday, respectively. That's all with the local news. Let's take a look at the first report now. The authorities are taking more actions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the business states and regions in Myanmar. People leaving the house without wearing a mask will soon be fined under the Prevention and Control of Communicable Diseases Law. The regional government is now making the necessary arrangements, and details will be announced in the coming days. Let's take a look at the report.
The authorities are taking more actions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the business states and regions in Myanmar, and from now on, most businesses have started resuming operations as growing number of people are out and in the streets of most parts of the country. People leaving the house without wearing a mask will soon be fined over the Prevention and Control of Communicable Disease Law. This regulation will take effect soon, as the regional government is now making necessary arrangements and details will be announced in the coming days. Speaking to MI Radio about the health warning they are giving to the people to wear masks and wash hands from time to time, Dr. Mate, Yangon Region Lutto representative from Line Township said,
in Line Township, as the masks are rare and became expensive, we handed the homemade cotton masks to the shoppers in the markets. We informed them about wearing the masks and hand washing every time they remember. But there is still a problem that people do not want to wear because of the weather and other reasons. As we know, markets are the crowded places. In the Line Township, there are some big markets like the Rimingla Market, which have a lot of shoppers and shopkeepers all the time. So we can't control those big markets, but some do follow the rules. So we held a meeting with the Township Development Committee, and then we decided to take action against those failing to wear masks. For the first time, the authorities were notifying those violating the health guidelines about the rules and the actions. For the second time, they have to make a promise with fine that they will wear masks. For the third time, the authorities will take action against them and the related laws. As people do not follow the instructions and recommendations, action must be taken. That's why we are preparing to fine those who don't wear masks. As this is an offense under the law, people will have to pay fines at the cost if charged. In Line Township, there are still people who live in community quarantine centers. There are currently 2 quarantine centers in Line Township.
Authorities in Mandalay have already taken action against 40 people failing to follow the regional instruction released on 8 May to wear face masks when going out. Those people have been instructed to buy 2 face masks for 1,000 kyats. They had failed to wear their masks properly by hanging it on the chin and were made to sign a pledge not to break the rule for the first offense. They were also warned that their stalls would be closed unless they comply. The regional government had said that during the specified educational period from May 9 to 15, those who fail to follow the rule must buy 2 face masks for 1,000 kyats and 2 face masks for 5,000 kyats afterwards. Umyo Linton, one of the shopkeepers from Jiminai Township, spoke to MI Radio his feelings about the wearing masks. He said,
It is not difficult for us to wear the masks, but sometimes we fail to wear when the weather is too hot or when we go around. So now we have to follow the rules as much as we can. We also received the homemade cotton masks from the authorities.
The Ningtai region and Kachin state and some other areas have also started to find people who are going out without wearing masks. After passing the infections, hundreds of factories across the country have reopened. Although the markets and many local businesses in the city remain closed, locals came out of their homes over the weekend. Public areas such as pagodas, parks, playgrounds, the zoo, churches, and mosques remain closed until further notice from the union government is released.
That's a report on the authorities to fine those failing to wear masks when leaving homes. All right, we'll move on to the next report. Even the countries with powerful economies are facing challenges in medical supplies, healthcare, and the economy, and the struggle is so overwhelming that poorer countries cannot deal with the impact. Confirmed COVID-19 cases have exceeded 4.1 million globally, with the death toll climbing to over 285,000. Our reporter Aga Jo will tell us more about the poor countries which are in dire need of international help and update on the pandemic situation across the world.
With global coronavirus cases topping 4.1 million, the cooperation amongst the countries has been increasingly important. Even the countries with powerful economy are encountering challenges in medical supplies, healthcare and economy, and the struggle is so overwhelming that poorer countries cannot deal with the impact. One good example is Africa. While COVID-19 infection rates in Africa have been lower than the rest of the world due to factors like hotter weather and less travel, the continent also suffers from a lack of testing capacity. To that end, international collaboration may help both during and after the pandemic. Masood Damhu, China Media Group CRI Myanmar Department, explained the importance of international collaboration instead of playing blame game on each other.
ဒီနေ့လက်ရှိမှာတော့ဗိုင်းရပ်စ်တင်ပြန့်နှံ့ရာနေရာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်သူတပြန်ကိုယ်တပြန်ပြစ်တင်ပြောဆိုမှုတွေရှိနေကြပါတယ်ဒီလိုပြစ်တင်ပြောဆိုမှုတွေရှိနေကြသလိုပေါ့ပူပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်တဲ့အဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေမှာထင်သလိုလောက်ကင်နေမှုတွေလည်းရှိကြပါတယ်ဥပမာထောက်ပံ့ကြေးပေးဆောင်ဖို့နိုင်ငံကြီးအချို့ပေါ့နော်ပေးနိုင်ရတာနဲ့မပေးတာမျိုးယောဂကုသဖြစ်ပွားမှုလိလိုရှုပြီးတော့ဒီကိုယ်အသားနာတာကိုပဲနာတာလို့သတ်မှတ်နေတာမျိုးလှုံ့ဆော်နေတဲ့နိုင်ငံကြီးအချို့လည်းရှိပါတယ်အမှန်တော့ဒီလိုအချိန်မှာဝိဝါဒကွဲပြားမှုမရှိဘဲနဲ့ပေါ့နော်တကဘာလုံးအရေးကိုအရေးတွေးပြီးတော့တက်နိုင်တဲ့ဘက်ကနေပူပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်မှုတွေဖြည့်ဆည်းမှုတွေဝိုင်းဝန်းကူညီမှုတွေနောက်သတင်းဖလှယ်မှုတွေပေါ့နော်စသဖြင့်လိုအပ်သလိုပူပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်ရမယ့်အနေထားပါ
The third batch of anti-epidemic supplies from China has arrived in Algeria recently. The supplies include 5 million surgical masks, 560,000 N95 masks, 15,000 nucleic acid test kits, 100,000 diagnosis equipment, and 15,000 surgical gloves and protective suits. Serbia has the highest number of people infected with the COVID-19 in the Western Balkans. At the same time, the country has one of the lowest death rates from the virus in Europe. Serbian health authorities said one of the reasons is the medical help from China.
အခုလက်တလုံးမှာတော့တရုတ်ကဒီနိုင်ငံတကာနိုင်ငံတွေအတွက်ပေါ့နော်စီးပစ္စည်းအစအစည်းဝါကူတာရေးပညာရှင်တွေအစုံနိုင်ငံတကာကိုပံ့ပိုးပေးနေတာတွေ့ရတယ်။ထောက်ပံ့ငွေတွေလည်းအလုံးရင်းလိုက်ထည့်ဝင်တာတွေ့ရတယ်။အခုလက်ရှိမှာဆိုရင်ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံကပေါ့နော်အထူးသဖြင့်ဆင်းရဲမှုများတဲ့အာဖရိကနိုင်ငံတွေကိုပံ့ပိုးကူညီမှုတွေပေးတာတွေ့ရတယ်။အခုဆိုရင်အာဖရိကနိုင်ငံတွေမှာပေါ့နော်ဒီဘာဖြစ်တယ်လဲဆိုရင်ယောဂကြောင့်စားနပ်ရိက္ခာပြက်လက်မှုတွေတောင်ဖြစ်နေကြပြီလို့ကျမတို့သတင်းတွေကြားရတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ဒီလိုအနေထားမှာယောဂရဲ့ဇင်းမြစ်ကိုရှာပြီးတော့ဝိဝါဒတွေကွဲပြားနေမဲ့အစားရန်ညိုးတွေပွားနေမဲ့အစားပေါ့နော်တရုတ်အာဖရိကအာရှစသဖြင့်ပေါ့နိုင်ငံပေါင်းစုံပူးပေါင်းပါဝင်ပြီးတော့ကမ္ဘာတလွှားကူးစက်ဖြစ်ပွားနေတဲ့ကပ်ရောဂါဆိုကြီးကိုဘလို့အမြင့်ပြတ်တိုက်ထုတ်ရမလဲဆိုတာကိုအတူဝိုင်းဝန်းအဖြေရှာကြဖို့ကအရေးကြီးနံပါတ်1ဖြေရှင်းရမယ့်ကိစ္စပါ
Confirmed COVID-19 cases have exceeded 4.1 million globally, with the death toll climbing to over 285,000, and more than 1.45 million recovered patients, according to the latest count from Johns Hopkins University. The Chinese mainland has 82,919 cases of COVID-19, of which 1,691 were imported. Also, 760 asymptomatic patients are under medical observation. China's COVID-19 death toll stands at 4,644. The US is leading the world in both COVID-19 infections and fatalities, totaling more than 1.3 million and over 80,000 respectively. The UK on Monday unveiled its three-step coronavirus recovery plan and advised people to wear face coverings for the first time. Latest numbers of infections have reached 223,060 and death toll stood at 32,065. Russia reported a new surge of infections with the total number at 221,344, becoming the country with the fourth highest number of coronavirus infections in the world after the UK, the US, and Spain. This is Agajo reporting for Myanmar International Radio.
Well, let's move on to the last report before we go to international news. On Monday, Pandia launched the Open Innovation Platform, DoPanD, to identify tech talents from the tech community, then funnel their efforts to develop tech solutions to challenge statements raised by civil societies and private organizations. The platform will be in perpetuity, creating an ecosystem of problem solvers and challenge statements. David Tanner has the story.
The unprecedented spread of COVID-19 affects the global economy, the physical and mental well-being, and disrupts our standard ways of living, communication, and our social norm. While this crisis lowers the efficiency of business operation, daily transportation, and communication, it also results in further negative impact on the local community. It is important to ensure plausible solutions are carried out immediately in response to tackle these problems. Beyond the COVID-19, the platform is set up to be able to crowdsource the challenge statements that require innovative technical solutions. Given this context, Pandia launches the DoPanD Open Innovation Platform to identify tech talents named as Zigua, along with the community leverage its experience in growing startups to help the problem solvers in scaling up the solution developed to be widely applied in Myanmar. Gopai Heinta, New Ventures Manager of Pandia, will summarize for what Open Innovation Platform DoPanD really is.
The idea for open innovation came alive when the COVID-19 started, and we were looking for how we can leverage tech community to help fight against the COVID-19. So initially, we were thinking of hackathons, but at the same time, we realized that the solutions need to be sustainable. We prefer situations where people actually understand the problem, they are able to come up with a problem and then solve it. So that's why, based on a crowdsourced idea, we came up with the DoPanD Innovation Platform. So over the Binge holidays, over a month, we planned, pitch, and prepare with the partners. And thanks to all the partners, we are now moving towards the problem statements on the May 14th. So by May 14th, we have solid problem statements, 4 challenge statements. And given these challenge statements, we'll be requesting the community members who are the innovators, hackers, data scientists, makers, and designers to solve these problems. And when we are talking about the sequence, we're expecting it could be students, it could be people working in the company, it could be people who have used technology before, who are excited about technology, or who have actually done projects. So we are looking across a wide variety of tech community members to help us solve these problems.
DoPanD is Myanmar's first ever open innovation platform, which brings onto the same platform challenges that require innovative technical solutions and the enthusiastic tech talents who have skills and knowledge on innovative technologies, project coordinators, data specialists. Challenges some from various stakeholders such as NGOs, INGOs, corporate partners. With that said, Mr. Henrik Wickman, Senior Advisor of GIS, also told MI Radio for how this platform could have an impact in local SMEs and NGOs in Myanmar.
Whole idea for us
The talents, Ziguats as called, are from various backgrounds and geographies, joining Dopandi to implement solutions for stated challenges as teams or individuals. After joining the platform, Ziguats can apply for any stated challenges on the platform to find solution and submit prototypes. Pandia and challenge owners support the journey of ideating, creating, and the implementation to the Ziguats. Ziguats have 2 to 4 weeks depending on challenge to submit solutions. Reporter David Tanner reporting from Myanmar International Radio.
And that's all we have for today's reports. I believe it's time now for international news. Russia's UN ambassador slammed the United States on Tuesday as ridiculous for arguing it was still a member of the Iran nuclear deal 2 years after it quit, so Washington could trigger a return of all United Nations sanctions on Tehran. The United States, Russia, China, Germany, Britain, and France in 2015 agreed to the deal with Iran that prevents Tehran from developing nuclear weapons in return for sanctions relief. The UN Security Council enshrined the deal in a resolution that still names the United States as a participant, even though it left. US President Donald Trump quit the agreement in 2018 and described the accord from Barack Obama's presidency as the worst deal ever. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, however, said last month the language in the resolution was, quote, unambiguous and, quote, the rights that accrue to participants in the UN Security Council resolution are fully available to all those participants. Lawsuits against China to pay for damages from the COVID-19 pandemic are multiplying in the US. 2 proposed class action suits have been filed in the US federal court in Miami, while similar ones have been filed in California, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Texas. The state of Missouri was one of the first to file suit. Could these suits win? Legal experts say probably not, due to sovereign immunity in the US law.
Under the US, and particularly the US Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act of 1976, it recognizes the immunity of sovereign states, with only 2 exceptions, namely commercial activity with a sufficient US nexus and or a territorial tort. However, the situation here does not necessarily fall, meaning the recent COVID-19 case does not fall within those 2 exceptions.
Professor David Stewart from Georgetown University in the US wrote us in email. Various lawsuits filed to date in U.S. courts against the People's Republic are highly likely to be dismissed for lack of jurisdiction under our Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, as it now exists. However, it appears there is not an effort in the U.S. Congress to change that law in order to permit such suits. It is too early to assess whether such an effort will succeed. The sentiment against China in the U.S. is intensified by the coming U.S. elections. International relations and trade experts are calling for a stop to the blame games.
I mean, it's politically very sensitive because it kind of involves saying someone takes the blame, and also it refers back to historically when China was kind of given reparation, had to give reparations to the European powers, the colonial powers, 120 years ago and before. So I think talking about reparations and compensation is the wrong kind of language, but there is a shared responsibility.
Mr. Trump is faced by the same problem, how to win the election in a very substantially deteriorating economic situation, and China is an easy target.
While politicians are pointing fingers, the real problems that legal experts are now concerned with are companies' trade disputes during the COVID-19 pandemic.
So a large number of, or a large volume of international trade, as we know it, is underpinned by international contracts. And I think there is a risk of a deluge or a plethora of defaults. The challenge is to stop our legal system from breaking down. And in my opinion, legal systems also need to be flexible, and judges everywhere need to be pragmatic to help safeguard commercial activity, minimize disruption or supply chains, and ensure that the world does not suffer a very deep depression.
Solving trade disputes, saving global economies, and tackling other urgent global agenda issues like climate change requires international cooperation. But experts say this is becoming more difficult in a more divided world as China-US disputes continue.
In other news, COVID-19 continues to spread across the world. By Tuesday afternoon, Johns Hopkins University reported more than 4.2 million confirmed cases and over 290,000 deaths. According to the International Council of Nurses, at least 90,000 healthcare professionals have been infected, and more than 260 nurses have died around the world. There are over 3.8 million registered nurses in the United States alone. At least 79 nurses have died from the coronavirus, according to the American Nurses Association. U.S. hospitals are reporting a shortage of key medical supplies, including ventilators and personal protective equipment. Some states have been unable to get enough PPE to protect nurses and doctors. Healthcare workers across the country have organized protests over their working conditions and have been asking for more PPE to help them battle the pandemic. China's rise was treated in a relatively benign way by the West around 10 years ago, but is now treated in an increasingly malign way. It's a form of hegemonic angst, which is most clear in the United States. COVID-19 has once again laid bare such an attitude. Take a look at the video.
First of all, don't underestimate the fact that the criticism, negativity towards China has been getting stronger. I mean, it's always been there. Look, it's not new. This goes back, a long time. It goes back to 1949. There's a whole history of being critical and demeaning of China on political grounds. You've always got to remember that people say, well, it's a communist country and so on. So the effects of the Cold War and Cold War attitudes are still, quite important, quite strong in Western societies. And this is regarded often as the big dividing line. It's a political dividing line between communist countries and what they'll call democratic or liberal society. And it's got stronger in the last 4 or 5 years, I think, partly under the impact of Trump, because he's the trade war, great hostility towards China, breakdown in the old relationship between China and the United States. Another reason, another factor is, people are not sure really what to make of China. They're very critical of China on the one hand, but on the other hand, they're also aware of the rise of China, the growing importance of China, which around 10 years ago was treated in a relatively benign way, but now it's treated in a more malign way because they see the rise of China maybe undermining the position of the West, which they didn't really previously think like that, but now they do. So, I've heard it described as a form of, there's a form of kind of hegemonic angst, which is most clear in the United States, but I think is true here, where, this negativity, the negativity is often very crude and quite frankly, very ignorant, with no sense of where the world's going. The world is going towards the rise of China and the decline of the West. So what's the West going to do? Is it West going to find a way of relating to China, or is it just going to be shouting against China? And I think in a way that there's a kind of an intellectual crisis in the West about China. Because they really are not sure how to handle it. And this is not surprising, because the West has been riding high for so long. China has not been part of their playbook. They haven't been able to think about China in these terms, and now they did. And if you think of it historically, it's all happened very quickly. I would only say it's very important, in my view, for China to understand this, and for China to find ways of, how the West is in decline, but what the West thinks matters to China. It is very important. So China has to find a way of relating to public opinion in the West, which is going to, as far as possible, bring as many people, as large a cross-section of people in the West along with it as possible. It matters what the West thinks to China. It's not the only question for China, but it is the important question. And I think China's still got quite a lot to learn about that. China underestimates the importance of that, but more importantly than that, it doesn't quite understand how to do it. That's not surprising. China is different. What works in China doesn't work usually in the West. What works in the West doesn't really work in China. But therefore, it's a learning process. China's becoming a very, very powerful country. It's going to become, in my view, the global leader. Therefore, it's got to be culturally very aware, much more knowing of how opinion in these countries works and how best, and value that as important to find way for forms of cooperation.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, street vendors in Kenya have been hit hard. The harsh effects have been strongly felt in Kibera, an informal settlement in the capital Nairobi, where many of the residents make their living in an informal trade. Kibera's young journalist from Shine Kibera TV reported the story for CGTN.
Kibera is the biggest slum in Africa. A drive-through will give you a picture that life is normal. But don't be deceived. The COVID-19 has changed people's lives very fast. Among those hit are the food vendors on the streets.
Customers hawako, watu sahi sasa wako kwa nyumba, sasa na hawako wamepata pesa, sasa haisongi. Kama ulikuwa unapika mifuko 4, umerudi chini kwa 1.5.
We meet another man who sells fresh juice at 42. For about an hour, I couldn't see a single shopper enter his shop.
Vile maisha ilikuwa kabla ya corona, watu walikuwa na pesa, walikuwa nauza vizuri. Saa hii maisha vile imekuwa ngumu, unapata kuuza misanji iko chini. Saa hii unapata mtu anashughulika tu na chakula, mahitaji ya nyumba, lakini ukipata kama ni mahitaji mengine inamlemea. So nafikiria inafaa kuwe na mkono kama wa serikali hivi ama mashirika siwe zinasaidia pande nyingine.
Moses counts himself lucky whenever he sees a customer. And now as you can see, you just have to sit and wait.
Tujikinge, ile kitu mtu ako naye kidogo angelipo kuitumia kwa njia inayostahili, ndio tunjui hii corona itachukua muda gani.
A few yards from Moses' shop, I meet Joshua who sells grocery just by the roadside, and he shares the same experience.
Vile tunauza kiwango cha chini sana, na
ile kitu tunaweza kuomba hii ugonjwa iishe kwa sababu imetufungia kila kitu.
He is lucky to get a few customers, perhaps because it's approaching lunchtime. His area of concern is the curfew.
Ili masao watu walikuwa wanakuja kununua vitu. Hiyo masaa ndio tunafunga naye.
Such are the challenges local business owners go through in Kibra. I am Sylvia Adhiambo.
Well, that's all we have for now. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Wherever you are, please stay home, stay safe, help yourselves to help the world. I'll see you again. Goodbye.